Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 95, Let Go of the How and Let It Happen. So as you know, all month we've been talking about a topic I bring up here often on the podcast, about looking at how your self-talk impacts your life, how you speak about yourself in life is shaping how you live your life, and whether or not it becomes the life you actually enjoy living. All month, we're going to be focusing on how you actually think. Are things possible or impossible? How much of your life do you actually take ownership of? Or do you see all the power coming from out there, outside of you? Today, I want to dive into one of the biggest obstacles my clients surface in our coaching together. And they say, Mary, how can I make this happen? How can I make this different? How in the world am I going to be able to change this? I don't see the way. I don't see how it is possible. So that's what we're going to get into today. Letting go of the how and focusing instead on your why and who you are and what's brought you here. Because letting go of the how, I think, is letting go of control. When I was researching some of this, I found some writing by Melody Beattie, and she says, making things happen is controlling. We can take positive action to help things happen. We can do our part, but many of us do much more than our part. We overstep the boundaries from caring and doing our part into controlling, caretaking, and coercing, making sure that happens. I know none of us are ever guilty of that, right? None of us have ever been guilty of over-planning, persuading someone to do something or not to do something, practically knocking people down to get what we want, all for very good reasons, not in a selfish way. But this is all fear-driven because control is all about fear that it won't be okay, fear that without us doing something to ensure that outcome, that the outcome we want won't happen. So let's try to unpack that a bit for a moment. Trying to force. Think about that. Trying to force. It sounds terrible when you say it out loud. Now, usually our intentions are wonderful. There are very good reasons why we want that outcome. But when we're trying to force, we forget we don't have all the information, perhaps. We don't know what could change tomorrow, what new opportunities could open up. So when you're letting go of the how, you're saying to yourself, it doesn't seem possible today, but who knows what tomorrow might show me. When we're trying to force, we forget that we're just not that powerful. We don't have the power to change people's minds, to make them see, make them understand, make them change. We can't change things outside of our control. We just do not have that kind of power. We can only focus on ourselves and what we can do better and be better at. Another reason why we try to force outcomes is because we don't want to accept the reality. Very common instance of this is when people become very obsessed about a romantic relationship or a new thing that they're into, like maybe a home that they want to buy, things like that. And they become hyper-focused, and that's all they can think about, and that's all you hear them talk about, ad nauseum. And they're obsessing, and they're questioning, and they're wondering, and they're researching, and they're talking about it, and they're worrying about it, and they're dreaming about it, and they're fantasizing about it. Trying to control outcomes in their head is what they're trying to do. You know, fantasy, even fantasies of control, are great because we have control over the fantasy. We get to say what happens in the movie. In real life, we do not. So maybe we don't want to accept the reality that we don't have that kind of power, that the outcome could go either way. We try to force outcomes because we're impatient. I know we've all been guilty of that. What if it's taking longer than you wanted it to? Maybe you're scared. What if it never happens? It's taking too long. What's going on? It's that anxiety of not knowing what's happening or what's going to happen next. We want control. And we try to force because we're afraid that maybe it may never happen. And if you've been disappointed in big ways early in life, especially by the people who should have been the last people to let you down or not follow through, or even if awful things happened early on in life that were even outside of their control, it's going to be a lot harder for you to just let go and trust that good things will happen. It's going to be so much harder for you to let go of the process, to just show up and relax. You don't have any good templates of that going well. That is what creates control issues in people early on in life. When they live in chaos, when bad things happened outside of their control. And it's that fear, like we've talked about before, of being vulnerable, of being hurt again, of being disappointed again, of being let down again. The thing is, we simply cannot control or foresee all the surprises that life is going to bring our way. There's no way. The only thing we can control is how we respond to these surprises. How we respond to twists in the road and detours off the path that you so carefully planned. So like we talked about earlier in another episode, set intentions instead of having expectations. Intentions we can control. Like how I want to show up to this gathering, or how I want to show up to this interview, or how I want to come across to folks today, how I want to treat my child today. We talked about this already, but I want to keep talking about it until we really know it. Setting intentions is different than having expectations. Having expectations is about controlling the outcome and getting all wrapped around the axle when it doesn't turn out the way we thought it should go, because we know everything. Being intentional instead, I think, means not trying to control the outcome, but we do take healthy control of choosing how we want to respond to a situation, or how we want to show up emotionally, or maybe cognitively. Maybe you really want to try to focus today on one thing, that kind of stuff. So being intentional, but not controlling. We can even set the intention of being flexible so that we are more adaptive and not so freaked out when things go left. Another thing we want to remember is to try to be more open to other perspectives and other angles. Your initial reaction could be, no, that's not going to work. Forget it. I've already thought about it. But we need to stop and be okay with other perspectives because we don't have all the answers. And maybe someone's encouragement or an idea might open a door that we thought was closed. It might be the puzzle piece we've been looking for. We won't know, in other words, unless we're open, is what I'm trying to point out. When we struggle with control, we like to keep control over everything, including all the information, right? Sometimes it makes us more rigid and less open, shall we say, to other people's opinions or encouragement that they offer to go in a different direction. But there's no way we can know everything or see everything or think about everything. You can't think about every variable. That's why we're here for each other, to bring up new ideas and new things to think about. And finally, another way we can let go of the process is to work on responding from your intuition. You've heard me say that before. Try to get quiet. When we're controlling, we're all spun up, we're anxious, we're busy, we're chaotic, we're anything but peaceful and quiet. But if you take time for quiet, start responding from your intuition instead. Try to be guided humbly, quietly, and peacefully at moments. I think When I'm able to do this, it helps me feel a lot less anxious and a lot more grounded. It's not that we don't take action. It's not that we don't do our part, like Melody Beattie said. But we only do our part, and then we let go, and the rest is going to be what it will be. And what's really neat is when we let go is when the cool things can start happening. But why do we hold on so tight? Like we've talked about, we want control because we are afraid. Like I said earlier, if you have any good reasons to have been afraid in the past, or you have evidence as to, yeah, it's not really a great idea to let go, it's going to be harder for you. We're afraid to let go. In some crazy way, the only power we feel we have is to hold on to control. But control is an illusion, so it's not really power. It's not true. We want control because we're afraid to trust, essentially. We're afraid to trust the process, maybe the universe, a higher being, of being worthy. A lot of times we're not aware that that might be what's driving the bus. Because if deep down you're afraid that you're not worth something really fantastic happening to you or for you, it's going to be hard for you to let go and let it happen. We're afraid of being disappointed and let down again. We're afraid to let go because we don't want to fail. We want control because we think that we can take care of ourselves no matter what. And it's a lot harder to let go and need others and allow help and allow guidance. And finally, we're afraid to let go because we don't believe that even if it turns out differently than we planned, that it might just be as good or better than we could ever have imagined. I know you've heard that statement before. And usually we roll our eyes when we first hear it. We're like, yeah, right. How's that going to happen? But I want you to think for a moment of times in your life where exactly that happened. You let go, you threw your hands up, you surrendered, white flag, and maybe not immediately, but eventually something better turned out. Something that you couldn't even have imagined had been the answer all along. That's what I'm talking about. Times when you let go, times when you were relaxed and less controlling and less anxious, let's say, and better things happened. Think about that for a moment. That's the how. That is the how that we're talking about today. So look for the evidence. Some people believe there are no coincidences. And maybe you're still there and that's cool. But I want you to pretend this week that there are no coincidences. Just pretend that you believe that premise. And so when cool things happen, where it seems like you swear people read your diary or read your mind and provided you with an answer, a hand up, a hand out, something this week, I want you to absorb that that was the universe's way of saying, we're here for you. Another way you can find the evidence of the how, of how all this is going to happen, is that people seem to show up right on time when you need them, how you need them, and why you need them. And magically, they seem to know that. And in your gut, you know, and you feel it. There's times when you get lucky breaks right when you need them, and you're immediately grateful. The evidence is there when that aha comes out of nowhere for you, where it unlocks the door that has been closed for so long. It could come from someone else's lips. It could come from watching a movie, reading something. It could come out of the blue when you're folding towels. The evidence comes when someone else offers a question or a thought or a suggestion that moves the needle for you. Some people believe that that's no accident, especially when it creates that epiphany that moves you forward. Sometimes change and upheaval. Upheaval we may not want, like a loss or a huge change that we didn't ask for, but that it creates a huge shift in your life. And on the other side of the turmoil, the loss, the grief, the what have you, the transition, at first you don't see the gift, but later you do. That it's actually better on the other side because it transformed you and it changed you and maybe forced you into taking steps in your life that maybe you would not have had the courage to take if you hadn't been forced to. Sometimes we have to be pushed out of the nest in order to fly. So keep looking for these. Look for them in your own life, but also look for them in others too. Some people call them lucky breaks, the universe, or God winks, or the law of attraction. Whatever you believe or don't, it's a great, fun, and positive stance to take, I think, especially when you're having a really shitty week. At any moment, you can put this into practice. And you just experiment. I'm just going to notice. I'm going to see. I'm going to look around for this. I'm going to be aware. And when you tell your subconscious to look for it, it'll find it. Trust me. I think it's also helpful because it helps you think or imagine that you're not alone. When we step out vulnerably to create change and to grab the courage to change ourselves and change our lives and take a risk, it's scary. And it doesn't take much to knock us off the horse. So if you feel like you're not alone and you're being guided, it feels like A, you're on the right path, right? And B, that there is help and guidance, encouragement, and support along the way. That there is hope, and we need to have hope. I also think that it helps us believe that there actually is a how that we can't see. When these coincidences, quote unquote, keep happening, we can see that forces beyond our control are helping us out. Because here's the thing, there might be plenty of hows out there, but you don't have the awareness of it yet, because maybe something else needs to happen first. That's what we forget. I see this all the time in therapy and coaching, that the thing won't happen yet for them because they have to step back and go work on something first. Like someone wants a really great, healthy relationship, let's say. Well, it may not be showing up yet because they need to do some boundary work. They need to work on their self-esteem a little bit. They need to work on their communication skills. And then that person will start showing up for them. There's lots of little hows, and sometimes there are detours, and sometimes it feels like 3 steps back, 2 forward, and that's okay. Every time we take a step back, it's because there's something back there that we need to catapult us forward. One of the tricks I think you can use to help keep the faith and the courage to keep pursuing your goals when you're not sure how this is going to happen, how you're going to get the money, how you're going to find the time, who's going to be there to help you. How is this going to happen? It feels impossible. One way is to keep the affirmation statements positive yet vague. And the reason why I want you to do them positively yet vague is I don't want you getting caught up in the niggling details of just how you're going to pull that off. And why do you think great motivational speakers use these statements? There's a reason. Because when we get bogged down into the details of how, we get stuck and then we throw our hands up and then we don't do the footwork then to do our part, to show up and do what we can do, because we already feel defeated. Instead, I want you to focus on the concepts, the larger truths, and I think the bigger picture. What's been resonating? What's been hitting your heart? What do you really want and why? Like statements such as, you will surely be a success. Come on, you're smart, you're hardworking, we love you. What's not being said in that statement is, who is saying this? And how do they know, right? Don't worry about that. Just focus on you will be a success because you're smart and you work hard. If you believe that, your subconscious is going to help you get your shit together to make that happen. I believe that. I think that is a very true thing. I've seen it in my own life, and I see it in my clients all the time. Another statement, you will be guided and helped along the way. Very vague, but I don't want you to worry about why or who or when they're going to show up or how they're going to show up. See, that's when, if I could stop here for a moment, that's when we start playing God of the universe. Oh, I need to know exactly who's going to show up and what they're going to do. And no, you're not in charge of that. I'm not in charge of that. That's what keeps life interesting. Another statement, you can accomplish anything you truly desire and believe in if you work hard. What's not being answered is, okay, how do we know this? Don't worry about how we know this. So vague and positive statements, use your I statements. I will accomplish this because it matters to me. Other people have accomplished this, so therefore I can. Another trick that you've heard me talk about before is just marinate in your why. Let go of the how. Let go of the details. Just get really solid as to why. Why do you want to go back to school? Why do you want a different job? Why do you want a better relationship? Why do you want to be physically healthier? Why do you want to become more assertive? Why this matters so much to you? What has brought you here? You and I both know it's probably pain, right? It's pain, overcoming pain, moving through the fire, coming out the other side with a whole different outlook on life and wanting and needing it to be different because you just raised the bar. Realizing life is short when bad things happen. So finding the meaning for you, there are valid reasons why this matters to you. We've talked in previous episodes about what values, beliefs, and passions are being lived out here. I think purpose breathes life into us. Passion helps us feel alive. Things that matter. It creates a belongingness piece for us. We belong to other people who care about this. We belong to the larger community. We want to serve. We want to provide. We want to bring our gifts. We want to live life. You're listening to this episode because you want to live fully. You don't want to sit on the sidelines. Focus on the why, what you believe in, and why you matter, and why it matters to you, and why you must do this. When we stay focused on our why, we know the research shows that we will find a way to get there. It is the basic plot of every great epic movie where we have to get to Oz. We have to get to Oz to get Dorothy home, remember? We all have our journey. And I just want you to believe and know that if something valid and valuable is put on your heart to do or change or become, just focus on that. And like we talked about today, practice letting go of the how and just see what happens. Do what you can do. You know what that is. You know what's on your radar and you know what is within your control. Then you let go of the how. How is this going to happen? How is this going to play out? Where is the path going to twist and turn for me? So today we talked about the how and how hard it can be to let go of just how you're going to do the things you really want to do or change or be. This means we have to practice, and it takes practice every day you get up, having a new mindset that is wide open to possibilities, to the magic, I think, and for the universe to somehow make it possible. Thank you for joining me today. May you stay healthy, grounded, focus on your why, focus on the good in yourself and others, look for the coincidences that are no accident. Be sure to check out the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. Sign up for the newsletters each Tuesday, and that way you can get any bonus downloads and all the great info. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.